Hi, I'm Ann Coulter. Welcome to my Substack video interview today. I have the famous Jessica Vaughan, the person I turn to when I need to know anything about immigration. She is a font of information, the encyclopedia of what is going on with immigration. She works for Center for Immigration Studies, about the only immigration website you can trust on any of this. And I'm even a little more hardcore than Center for Immigration Studies. Welcome, Jessica Vaughan.
Thank you, Anne. Great to be with you.
Oh, and best of all, she's coming in from a biking trip in where, Croatia?
Transylvania.
Oh, it actually is Transylvania.
Yeah, then they call it that, Central Romania. It's spectacularly beautiful, a lot of fun, wonderful people.
Oh, I'd love to do that. I bet they have a wall and a much better immigration policy. I just emailed you. I'm not sure if you got the email. One of the things I wanted to ask you, because when I was working on putting in some really aggressive stuff in the immigration law when I worked for the Senate Judiciary Committee, 1996, I think it was part of the terrorism bill. But anyway, I got a hold of I forget how. I was connected to someone in the New York U.S. Attorney's Office, and his specialty was immigration law. And he just went through. I mean, it would have taken me 200 years to find this. Just these specific provisions. If you just changed this, took this word out here, there were these tiny little changes that made such an enormous difference that for the next 5 years, the New York Times denounced these provisions in the immigration law, and I think they were mostly kind of rolled back. But to get done what Trump has promised to get done, what are some of the laws you would change?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely could take a black Sharpie, and try to block out big parts of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Um, One of the first things I would do, though, is to write a provision that would allow states to do more to help the federal government, because especially after the last 4 years of just millions of illegal entries and abuse of presidential authority by Joe Biden. We've got at least 9 million, probably more people here illegally. And it's just too much for ICE, which has been knocked down at the knees by previous administrations. They just don't have the capacity to deal with it. They don't have the people, they don't have the resources. And frankly, I think there's two that they really, I'm not sure they know how to do it anymore to the extent that you would expect, just because, the people that got promoted under the Biden years were, not promoted because they were so tough on, illegal immigration enforcement. So,
Yeah, they were probably part of the Mexican cartels.
oh, let's hope not. But now I think that too many of them, like especially the HSI, they didn't even want to be called part of ICE. They,
What is HSI?
Homeland Security
Oh,
Investigations.
sorry.
They're the ones that do that. They're supposed to be doing worksite enforcement, gang enforcement. There were some really good people working on MS-13, and especially under Trump, they did a fantastic job. But they're also supposed to be working on human trafficking, and all kinds of other violations. They didn't even want to be part of ICE. They, didn't want to be part of deportations. They thought they could get along better with local law enforcement if they, weren't connected with ICE. So there's too many of those people around, who really don't know how to do good immigration enforcement.
That's a great point.
So, but the other thing is, now the states want to help. And they have some innovative ideas. For example, the state of Florida, they've offered detention capacity. They've come up with a deportation plan themselves using their own resources. And under this plan, they could probably remove 3 times the number that ICE can remove from Florida.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
do
Do we need a new law for this? Couldn't ICE just say we're deputizing you? Can't Trump do that?
They can actually. There's a provision of the law that would allow the Department of Justice to delegate immigration authority to the states. But I think it needs to be clarified partly to help inoculate against lawsuits. We don't have time to like wait for these cases to play out in the legal system. There's too many judges that are, active resistors. It would be cleaner if Congress would do it and change the law that specifically authorizes certain state law enforcement agencies to do immigration enforcement. And I don't mean just 287G, which is a great program where they can make arrests and write charging documents and hold people. I mean to actually detain and remove people from, coordination with the feds. But
that's a great idea. I was doing a back of the envelope calculation of how many illegals Trump will have to remove every day, just to get back to about where we were in, when he was running for president in 2015. And I came up to 20,000 a day. I'm pretty sure that's not what's happening. How is ordinary? I wanted to ask you about the Alien Enemies Act, but let's get to that in a second. Just for the ordinary quotidian enforcement, how is that going? How many are they deporting a day? And what can we do to speed it up?
It's going pretty well. They've done about 70,000 for the first 3 months. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's much better than was happening. But what was happening under Biden or even Trump 1 shouldn't be the standard.
Right.
The golden age of immigration enforcement was the last 2 years of the George Bush administration and the first year of the Obama administration.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and they were from the interior removing 240,000, I think it was. So Trump is now on pace to better that. Do more. But the problem is way bigger now. So we can't just rely on conventional immigration enforcement by ICE. And I think they're really smart also that they are going after the worst of the worst criminals, and but they're also targeting people who are in the country illegally and wanted to apply for one of these benefits programs that they could have gotten under Biden, but Trump is not going to give them access to that. And they're arresting them right at their meetings at, their interview meetings at USCIS.
Great.
And, they're going after these students and a lot of people who would have been off limits, I think, under other administrations and even other times. That they're not just confining it to criminal aliens. And that's messaging is so important. When people start thinking, maybe I won't go in for my work permit renewal, for my victim visa application or whatever, they are thinking twice about it. And this whole idea, the bang for the buck is in, first of all, workplace enforcement, but really in what I like to call voluntary compliance, which is another word for self-deportations. Whether it's with $1,000 check from taxpayers or whether it's just them saying, I'm going to, it's time, I'm going to go home with what I earned and not be arrested and detained. That's really, I predict that they will have more people leave on their own than ICE has to go around and physically remove. And we want ICE to go after the criminals. I mean, that's, really their bread and butter, and that's fine. But all of that helps create this environment of just, zero tolerance for illegal immigration. And when they can't get a job, can't get a driver's license, can't get a library card, can't get free bus tokens and daycare, that it's then there's no reason for them to stay here. It's not worth it, and they'll go home.
No, that's right. But isn't everything you're talking about sort of what we hope will happen, but is not happening? I mean, I don't think there's a lot of workplace enforcement. There was a case last week, drives me absolutely crazy. Illegal alien, alleged dreamer, girl was arrested. She didn't have this is in Georgia. She didn't have a driver's license. For some reason, the Dalton, Georgia Sheriff's Department said, oh, she was arrested by mistake. Well, they were looking for, a different black pickup truck. But so what? She was driving without a license. Her father had been arrested for speeding and driving without a license. And the way the case was discussed on TV, and I mean, just taking a look at her, you don't want her in our country. or her father. The way they were talking about it in the media, it's as if they had arrested an American. How dare you arrest this person who came into our country illegally and is breaking laws, maybe not, violent crime laws, but breaking the laws, driving without a license. A lot of accidents happen with illegal aliens who don't know how to drive. In any event, she's not supposed to be here. So I'm a judge leniently gave her the absolute minimum bond, $1,500, and now she's out there with a GoFundMe. She should have gone home immediately. I mean, that was one of the things Trump promised. We won't go looking for your average illegal alien who hasn't committed a crime. But if you fall into our hands, if you get arrested for, well, the things you were just talking about, not even getting arrested, but showing up to get one of the benefits, or if you get arrested for driving without a license, okay, we didn't look for you, but you fell into our hands, you got to go. And I don't think that's being done.
Not enough yet. That does take some time to get that messaging going. I think they've done a good job of starting it. But yeah, the workplace has to happen. They need to start sending, like using the computer systems of government to share information between the IRS and Social Security Administration and ICE. And my understanding is they've started getting those MOUs in place so that they can share information and then, figure out where there are Social Security numbers that are being used all over the country for different jobs at the same time, and sending letters to employers saying, we see some problems on your payroll. So-and-so is not the person to whom the Social Security number was issued. Figure out who the true number holder is, and tell these employers they need to tell that employee that they either fix the problem in the database or don't come back to work, because I as an employer don't want to get fined by ICE, and I don't want to get raided, and I don't want my name splashed on the local news for hiring illegal aliens. It's really not that hard. You need to have some consequences. And most employers will clean up their act on their own once they see that ICE means business. They're going to work with their HR staff and their lawyers and their accountants to say, okay, let's audit ourselves. Let's do our own audit of our own payroll before ICE comes in. That's what has happened before when ICE was actually doing this kind of enforcement. Scrupulous employers will get themselves in order. And then people